that they need to be able to get it implemented and integrated into their process. And on one hand, we're getting paid. I mean, it's not, but at the same time, it's, it's frustrating for the developers. It's frustrating for the teams to finish things and meet goals that were set. And then, it's almost like the business users, like if you have any advice for how we can, I don't know, get more buy-in from the business users. They all agreed that this was an approach that would be acceptable to them. And they meet with us and they're engaged. But at the same time, it's one of those things where the project is, the system, I guess, really is that big that there's always one more thing that they think they could need, before it'll add that much more value. And then, in my eyes and in our team's eyes, they could solve some of these problems on their own and implement the things that we have and then work toward it. But so now we have huge, pieces of the system that have been developed, tested, released, but aren't being used. And that's, it's a problem.
Do you work from a fixed scope, or do you work from a prioritized backlog?
We work from the backlog.
Is it prioritized?
Yes.
Do you update the prioritization every increment?
We do.
Okay. So, and then the business, is the business just bad at prioritization? Or does the business have a really good case that this new thing they want to add will add value, and they're willing to delay the rollout of what it is that they built?
I think both. I think in some cases they've had pretty good, reasoning, and we have said, okay, yeah, let's completely change the goals, for the next sprint, and we'll get you that. But then some pieces, it's just that they're bad at prioritization, and they have certain people, maybe, or users that are just really resistant to the change.
So have you guys done retros with the business to say, why is it that we're not good at prioritization?
Not really. That's kind of one thing that I was kind of considering, but I guess, and in my position especially too, like I was wondering like if you have any good advice on how to approach that. They are our clients, so I have to be a little bit careful in how I approach that to tell them they're bad at business planning.
Yeah, so we can be more tactful than that, right?
Right. Well,
so,
yeah.
So the question is, we collectively as a team want to make sure we're delivering the right things. Are there things we can do or that we've learned that would help us identify those things that are the most important? And that's certainly more diplomatic, but you get to the same result, right?
I hope. That's kind of my hope. It's been a long time coming, and like I said, it's intermittent. It's like some aspects of their business they're really good at implementing things, and then other aspects they're not. But it puts a lot of holes in our approach and in the system itself when there's these large chunks of functionality that just haven't been tested out. And the ultimate goal obviously is to have the entire system enterprise integrated. And so we're having some struggles with that, and they look to us for leadership to help them with that. But at the same time, I look to them for the priorities, in the to get the results that they want, for them to step up and really, take that on themselves, I guess.
So do they have any accountability for ROI, that is justification for benefit of value, money spent for what they ask you to build? Is there any mechanism for that?
We work on grant funding, so there's very little.
Okay.
There's very little accountability for that, and I know that's definitely one of the core problems.
So you got free money, right? You got free money, no one cares.
It's similar to that. I think we're working hard with some of like their business partners, like outside the organization. Like we're building relationships with them to kind of say, how can we better your relationships with our group, and have some accountability, at the end of the year when we come away and we say, did we do the things that we were supposed to do, the aims of the grants and things like that. I think we're getting there, but at this small level, like I said, that's a big piece that's missing. And any advice that anybody has about whether it's more education or how you educate a business user.
So I think Cam hit it from my perspective. Retrospectives are very powerful. What didn't work, what did work. Start there with your business partners. I'd ask, do you have the right people or person or product owner actually prioritizing your stuff? If you're having late last minute ads before you can release, I'd say they're not as engaged as you think, or you have the wrong people engaged.
Yeah, and in fact, that's what I was going to say. Like, normally, is it that you all work with one person that you expect to really be like the ultimate decision maker, or do you have like panels of?
Anytime you have a panel, you don't really have a decision maker.
Right.
And you'll end up with things like you're talking about, things that are last minute ads that, oh, we forgot to get to this person and they realized this and we got to get it added in. The product owner is a key piece to this whole
Right.
agile process. You need that decision maker to really help make sure that you're playing the cards that are of business value and can be implemented. I mean, does the business realize that, or do they have the expectation after every sprint that you can go into production? Are you done? Are you still done?
I mean, and that's what I've been pushing with them, I mean, a little bit. And a lot of times, they'll let us roll it into production and then they just won't use the new features. They'll work around it, get around it in some way and.
Get around the new features.
Right. I mean, it was,
The features they prioritize.
the features that they wanted, right, because they think that they're, not quite enough, like it's going to solve other business problems. I mean, it's a backward compatibility, mostly implementation, type of things. That they have a hard time breaking from their old systems, using the new systems. But it's, because we have a person that's supposed to act in one voice, but I just think she's easily swayed from other people. She's like, well, but this person told me they need this, so I'm just going to throw it over the fence to the development group,
Having a strong product owner is extremely important. And being able to influence a team to accept, or the business to actually accept the release and use the release. I've seen, been doing this for a while, a lot of features die on the vine once it got into production. It's really not a team problem. It's really, did we work on the things that are of value, which is back to the prioritization, which is what Cam was talking about. And so it sounds like you have engagement, but you may not have the right engagement.
How often do you release to production?
Every 4 weeks. I mean, now that we're in like sprint 22, the first sets of sprints were slower. I mean, we were building the system from the ground up, but now we've got a lot of momentum and we've got the whole backbone of the system built. So we are able to I feel add a lot of value in 4 weeks of development.
Sure. And do you lock, once you do your iteration open, or do you do iterations, 2 week or 4 week sprints or iterations?
It's, the way that we kind of do it is, I mean, the iteration itself is 4 weeks, but the hard development is 2 weeks because we do spend some time with like user testing. Like we do let them, review things and have us just be available for support while they're testing it before we do a production release.
So and going back to the strong product owner, and we do 2 week iterations, release to production every 4 weeks. So you have 2 iterations and it's a release to production. And what we do is when we open the iteration, the product owner comes with their list of prioritized stories. Based on our velocity, we choose the ones, the team chooses the ones they can play. And once that meeting ends, we're locked and loaded. So we really try to not change anything within the iteration, right? So it all goes back to having that strong product owner and having them really be the decision maker as to what's valuable and what goes into production. And you're right, if they're easily swayed or they can be influenced to try to move things within the iteration, then they probably don't have the right level of authority that the team really needs to deliver successful business value.
Thank you.
All right. Is this on? Okay. So I've got a couple questions actually for you guys. So I've listened to a lot of kind of the State of the Union. Here's where we're at with our agile practices, the things that we're doing. I'd like to hear you guys, your honest opinions on, it still seems like the agile movement in each of your companies, and knowing the companies are the bigger companies in the area, are still relatively new. They're still trying to get buy-in at an enterprise level. So I'm interested to know what your gut level feeling is on the sustainability of agile at an enterprise level in each of your companies. And then also my second question is for each of you, have you been successful in adopting a distributed team model in any of your teams? So onshore, offshore, or even distributed across the states?
So I'll take the sustainability of Agile. From a nationwide perspective, we're all in. We're going Agile. We're making a big commitment. We are literally reshaping all of our development floors to look like an open team environment. We're spending a lot of money on Agile. To get Agile out of nationwide right now is going to be extremely difficult. So I think from our perspective, it's here to stay. We've got executive commitment, we've got budget, and we have passion for it right now. So it's growing very fast. So I don't see us really going away from Agile for quite some time, unless something better comes along, which could always happen, right?
Yep.
So I'll add to what Dustin said. Even though Agile is going full steam or has a lot of momentum, there's a lot of care and feeding that has to take place, because there's all kinds of traps around where people think they know about it, they wanted to do this or wanted to do that. And you have to have enough wisdom to know where to make compromises and where such compromises really going to hurt things. But you go back to the end of the day, what drives it? It's that delivering business value. So some examples in our company. You can see a stack of Agile projects that get delivered, and they're showing up on time, they're showing up in budget, and the customer's happy as the dickens. And you look at the number of defects that got placed into production, it's small, it's like in the tens. And then you go look at the collection of applications built during the same time that are over budget, that weren't necessarily delivering what they wanted, whose defect rates are measured in the hundreds. That's a pretty compelling story. And it's hard to argue against that story. So in spite of all the cultural resistance, I think that fuels what's happening in our company.
So I'll speak a little bit to our maturity and where we're at. So we've been doing Agile since 2005 with Gap Direct, and over the past, about a year ago, the entire enterprise for Gap Direct was Agile. So, and that is complete leadership buy-in. In fact, we're one of probably the exceptions to the rule in that our IT leadership actually wanted to go Agile versus it being a groundswell from the bottom. So we're fully Agile. We have complete buy-in. Our president of our division loves it. He's seen the power, and we've been able to deliver for him very quickly and with very few defects. So we're completely bought in. Now it's how do we continue to hone and get better and spread the word, because Gap Direct is just a division of Gap as a corporation. So we're trying to spread Agile into our corporate infrastructure at this point. And then you asked the question about the offshore or dispersed team model, and we do that, but I've got to say it's something I struggle a lot with, because you have to realize that you are not going to get all the value that Agile brings if your team is dispersed, right? It's talking together around a table. It's showing your product owner, right now, I coded this screen. Hey, take a look at this. Is this what you're thinking of, right? You lose a lot of that. And anytime you put distance between people, you just amplify the lag time that it takes to get something done. You amplify the chance that something's going to get miscommunicated, misunderstood. So I would say you could call dispersed teams successful because they deliver, and maybe they deliver within the schedule and the budget they said, but I haven't seen yet where you can say they're as effective as a co-located team.
So I think it's critical. For us, we actually have senior management buy-in, so that's really helping our success. In the past, the organization tried to do it. They went to DSDM, and it just didn't work, didn't have any legs behind it. And now we actually have different management in place, and there's buy-in to it. So I would say from where you go from where you pilot with a team, we're piloting the enterprise with our division, our portfolio, just like with Gap. And so I would say in a year or two, if we're successful, we'll start spreading out. But we're kind of infiltrating at the team level as we